everything is pre-rigged. So we start with our internal lashing first to prevent sliding out the head of the foot. This one has a pre-rigged shoulder strap, and we're gonna size this up so the harness is where a harness normally would be. And just 2 clips. So here we're gonna go through the legs as high as we can go, and then cinch it down. That's all there is here. There's no waist buckle for this harness. So these little elastic little loops there kind of hurt more than they help. So consider just cutting those off. All right, so that's pretty good here. This is kind of loose. I want to cinch this down a little bit right here. Not too much. I want her to be able to breathe. The harness combined with the straps here prevents sliding out the foot. And the way that the yellow straps are rigged, they come up and around the shoulder, and they're tied to the rails on the bottom. And so if this litter inadvertently tipped over head down, that would prevent sliding out the head inherently. So internal lashing complete. External lashing. Pre-rigged system. We're going to start from one end, do one color first, and then we'll worry about the other color. I want to start on the end that's fixed. And if I can, I want to take the time to make sure that everything is straight and there are no twists in anything. Clip in. Okay, so no twists. Going back, and now we take all the slack. And there's probably going to be a little bit of a twist right there, it looks like, but that's okay. We can re-rig that after everything's over. So I make my adjustments. Again, snug, not too tight. We want her to be able to breathe, and we don't want those straps to prevent chest expansion. So rapid clip. And there, internal and external lashing complete. I would want to do some foot lashing, foot stirrups, if we were going to go vertical, which we could easily do with this, because we're going to segue into our Super Chicken Cadillac bridle. There are a lot of ways to make bridles. If we can make it so that they're adjustable, but more importantly, adjustable under load, that's kind of like the cream of the crop. As good as it gets is your ability to manipulate the orientation of this litter while under load. And that's what that set of 4s does for us, as well as the adjustable head bridles on the connect adjusts. Just to make sure that this is all straight. I take the extra second just to make sure that nothing's twisted and my lines are messed up, and then we tie in. There are a lot of ways to tie into a litter bridle. We're a big fan of the double long tail bowline. You can use alpine butterflies, you can use directional figure 8s, terminal figure 8s. None of them quite have the characteristics that we want, quite like a double long tail bowline. So I take both my ropes, mane and belay. As the name implies, double long tail, I want long tails. And the reason why I want long tails is those are going to be backup connection points for rescuers. Not victims, but rescuers. And I'll explain why we don't want our victim tied into the long tail in a second. So how much tail do we need? Well, the name of the game is adjustability under load, and we want our rescuers to have some sort of adjustable lanyard. Aztecs are the most popular choice, and an Aztec can elongate about 10 feet when used for personal use. We want these tails to be at least that, to allow full mobility of a rescuer on an Aztec to travel up and down as needed. So 5 feet is about my arm span, so that's 10. So that's 10 right there. I'm gonna give myself a little bit more to tie stopper knots in the end, so maybe right about there. That's kind of where I want to tie my yoke. I still have my hand on my tails, and I want to feed my tails. It doesn't matter which way I feed them. I just want to encapsulate my bridle. You can tie this in, or you can do carabiners, whatever. The smaller the gain, the lower the profile, the better, and that's what tying in does for us. And I forgot to mention interlocking long tail bowlines. You can also do that. So I still have a hand on my tails, and I'm just feeding this whole, what's going to be like 10 feet of long tail for my Aztec adjustability out And I still have my hand on where I wanted to tie my long-tail bowline. All right, here we go. Double long-tail bowline. Two ways. The old-fashioned way, I've already routed my rope around my tree. You know, I make my initial loop there. I make an inherent twist. And I feed my tails up. And from here, if I wrap around this way, that's an inside bowline. And if I wrap around this way, it's an outside bowline. And so I'll wrap around this way for the outside bowline because it keeps my yoke, or the loop, it keeps it a little bit cleaner. Okay, you see that? Old-fashioned way. I'm gonna do it the snap or the flip method, which is much more efficient. So I'll undo all this and redo it the flip version. We're gonna start just like we would a regular bowline. I got my little loop here. I'm making a slip knot is what I'm doing. So let's keep this dressed. So I'm making a slip knot just like that. Right there. That's a slip knot just with two ropes. I need to find my tails. Okay, if I feed up, that's this is an inside bowline, and I feed down, that's an outside bowline. With the double long-tail bowlines as a bridle yoke, I like the outside. Keeps my yoke clean, and now I just pull all the long tails through. And as I pull through, I can see that there's a little bit of a twist. I'm gonna try to get that twist out by twisting that last little bit. Okay, so we aren't quite there yet. I still have my slip knot and I still fed my ropes. I wanna grab the tail and where the tail came from on that yoke. So I grab the tail and where the tail came from on the yoke, just like this. And then this is the snap or the flip. I'm gonna hold this, I'm gonna pull the standing end. And as I pull, I can assist, and it snaps or flips on itself right there. And in the end, I have a very small yoke. And if I pull this up, you can see that it's a double long-tail bowline. Okay. The ideal position is slightly head up, and I can adjust this a little on either end. But before I do, let's talk about these long tails. These tails are for rescuers. This is a barrel knot. I'll show you it on the orange. Makes a great stopper knot. This does not make a great stopper knot. This is an inherently weak stopper knot. It tends to unravel on itself. There's lots of air gaps in here. We want something that's not going to have any of those air gaps, and it's not going to come undone easily. That's the double overhand or barrel knot. This is going to attach to the rescuer's fall arrest point on the harness, which is either the sternal or dorsal. So if I was wearing a full body harness, I would connect to sternal right here. This is if there's another rescuer that could do that. I don't want to, there's no reason for me to tie another point end to our patient, because let's think about it. These aren't really belays. These are backups. These are backups in case our primary connections fail. The belay is really up here. One of these is the main, one of these is the belay, unless it's a two-tension system. But that's where the belay is. Everything beyond here, like it's part of that. So one of the golden rules or principles of rope rescue is 2 points of connection. Our patient is 100% secured with internal and external lashing, does not need any additional points of connection. There's already a 4-point litter bridle in effect. Plus, if I put this on and then 10 slack with the prusik and I want to manipulate this litter, it'll start to weight the patient, and that will create discomfort, especially if there's injuries. So this is not for the patient. This is for another rescuer if we need one. Backup connection, sternal on the long tail. The primary connection is going to be an Aztec. Personally, I like clipping into the yoke and then hooking my Aztec up. Other people like to rig their Aztec with the actual ring into the yoke. I don't like doing that because I'm stuck there. I have no versatility. People argue that Well, you lose height when you do this, and that's true. To each their own. You know, whatever you want to do is fine. So, blue to you. So this would be rescuer's primary connection. You could even take this and put it on a pair of prusiks up here if you wanted greater height. Everybody's different. Everybody's body types are different. I've never had a problem doing it here on a carabiner. You could, either way, carabiner here, direct tie-in here, or up above on prusiks. So those are our attachment points. Let's talk about the bridle itself. So slightly head up position is ideal. We can get her flatter in two ways. The first is to adjust and pull in on my set of fours, and you can see that the capture prusik is going to go slack when I do that right there. So I can pull this up. It's going to flatten her out, and now she's still head uphill, but a little bit better, so a little flatter. And pay attention to the catenary angle in here. So when you do a set of fours from foot all the way to the yoke, and we have these adjustable progress adjust lanyards on cams, you have the potential, the downside of this is you have the potential to really flatten this bridle out to the point where you're creating like a miniature highline in here where these angles get really low. These cams can't be manipulated under load, but if I'm a tender or rescuer, what I can do is I can tilt one towards me or away from me. And when I do that, when I tilt away, I push away, this goes slack. When I pivot and pull this towards me, this goes slack. Whichever one you want to start with is fine, but you need this to go a little bit slack to grab the cam to rotate it, and then bring that and let it ride. And now you can see what happens. I've stretched it out, and now the litter is being pitched over. So now to adjust this one, I just need to bring that back, or actually push this forward even more. So that goes slack. I can turn the cam, and then now that drops too. And now she's in a head down position, and I want to make sure that when I do that, I try to keep them relatively even. Head down position. Now we can lower out from the foot bridle by pulling in, and then adjust, and then holding that capture prusik until she's flat or relatively head up, just like that. So we've made our bridle a lot taller, our profile taller. We've collapsed the catenary angle. We may be able to, depending on the weight of the patient, this is kind of like in theory, it's like a 2-to-1 through the cam here. It's not a pulley, but if I had the strength and the leverage, I could easily bring these back up. Just like that. You can't do that with Purcells. That's what's so great about these. Much more easy to adjust, and then I'll bring my litter back up.